The girl stepped into the tent hoping to buy a combat fairy, but instead found a man with an incredibly handsome face locked inside. Looking closer, she noticed the wings on his back, wings that marked him as a fairy.
ぐずぐず迷うな。俺を変え。
This was a world where humans and fairies coexisted, but most fairies were enslaved by humans, beaten and kicked on a whim. Humans took the fairies' wings, the very source of their life, to control them. If the wings were damaged, it meant the fairy's life had reached its end, and had grown up by her mother's side. Her mother was a master silver sugar artisan, who not only taught her how to craft sugar every day, but also told her gentle stories about fairies. After her mother passed away, and decided to carry on her will, and become a master silver sugar artisan herself, on her way to the royal capital, she passed through her first city, and noticed a commotion up ahead. She pushed through the crowd. A man was beating his fairy slave. The little fairy was covered in bruises. As punishment, the man even squeezed its wings hard, unable to watch the fairy suffer any longer, and stepped forward.
せーの。はい、これ。うわっ。ちょっと。人間に礼なんか言わないからな。覚えてろ。
It was clear the fairy's resentment toward humans would not fade overnight, and felt a pang of helplessness. The man tried to yell at her, but the crowd held him back. He didn't dare go too far, and continued on to the fairy market. She needed a combat fairy to protect her on the road. The journey to the capital was long, and the area was infamous for bandits and wild beasts. She asked around, but the dealers all said they had no combat fairies in stock. One of them pointed to a tent ahead, and mentioned there was a defective one she could take a look at. But when and stepped inside the tent, she froze. The fairy was incredibly handsome, but his mouth was vicious. A few words from him left him completely speechless. The dealer said this was the only combat fairy he had. It had taken 3 fairy hunters just to capture him. That alone said enough about his strength. The old man told him the fairy cost 100 silver coins. As he spoke, he pulled out the fairy's wings, and squeezed them hard, seeing the fairy's pain, and felt sick to her stomach. In the end, she paid and bought him. And so, their journey to the royal capital officially began. On the road, the fairy told him his name was Xiao, and that he had been enslaved for 70 years, and told him she bought him as a guard. But once they reached the capital, she would return his wings.
俺を解放すると言ってるのか。
そうよ。
金貨で買った妖精を逃がす。そんなおめでたい人間いるのか。
おめでたい。
She shared her mother's wish with Xiao. She wanted to be the one to bridge the divide, and become friends with fairies. Xiao only laughed at her words. Golden evening light poured over the carriage. Xiao looked at Anne's profile, and felt a strange sense of familiarity. By the time they reached their first rest stop, it was already late into the night, after a quick meal, and fell into a deep sleep. In her dream, she saw her mother again. Just as she was reluctant to part, she sensed someone nearby.